Meret Tesfaye, a 21-year-old Ethiopian beauty, had grown up with a quiet grace that drew eyes without effort. Deep brown, almond-shaped eyes, a soft caramel glow, and an innocence that made every word she spoke feel like music. But beneath her calm exterior lived a girl terrified. Her wealthy uncle had arranged a marriage between her and Korea's cold, striking, untouchable billionaire, Cha Eun-woo, heir to the giant Cha Group. It was a deal meant to merge business empires, not hearts. Meret, a virgin who had never even held a man's hand, felt like she was being sold to a future she did not choose. When she arrived in Seoul for the engagement and wedding rehearsals, she felt imprisoned. She wanted freedom, she wanted a choice, and she wanted love to be her decision, not a transaction. Her assigned guide was Jisoo, a 24-year-old poor local assistant hired to escort her wherever she needed to go. He was humble, shy, and grateful for the job. Nothing like the icy perfection of Eun-woo. Meret trusted him instantly. On the night of the rehearsal dinner, her anxiety exploded inside her chest. The grand hall filled with elites, photographers, and investors, all watching her like a prized jewel on display. "This marriage will destroy me," she whispered to Jisoo, trembling. "What do you want to do?" Jisoo asked softly, and she told him her desperate plan. "I want Eun-woo to hate me, to reject me. Please." Her voice shook. "If you kiss me in front of everyone, he'll cancel everything." Jisoo's face went pale. "Miss Meret, that could ruin me." She reached into her small gold clutch and pulled out an envelope. "Please, take this money. Take everything I have. I beg you." After a long breath, Jisoo nodded. Everyone rose when Meret entered the center of the hall. Eun-woo, in a white suit, looked like a sculpture carved from moonlight. Cold, regal, untouchable. Cameras flashed. The elites whispered, and Maret's heart hammered so hard she thought she'd faint. Just when Eun-woo extended his hand to her, Jisoo stepped forward behind her, grabbed her gently by the waist, turned her around, and a soft, trembling kiss that lasted only seconds, but the whole hall gasped in shock. Eun-woo froze. Security rushed. The room erupted. As Jisoo was dragged away, Meret shut her eyes, preparing for the rage, the humiliation, the broken engagement. But when she opened them, Eun-woo was staring at her with something she had never seen before. He dismissed the security guards with one gesture. Eun-woo walked past everyone, right to her, his voice low and intoxicating. "Why did you let another man kiss you, Meret?" She swallowed. Because I didn't want this marriage." He stepped closer until their breaths mixed. "And you thought this would make me hate you?" Meret nodded, tears gathering. Instead, he cupped her face gently, confidently, his thumb brushing her trembling lips. "Do you know what it did to me?" She couldn't answer. "It made me realize," he whispered, "how badly I want you, how much I'm willing to fight for you, how much I am already lost in you." Her knees nearly buckled. Eun-woo took her hand and pressed it to his chest. "My heart hasn't beaten this fast in years, Meret." She stared up, shocked. "You're not angry?" He shook his head. "I'm jealous. I'm burning. I'm insane for you." His voice dropped lower, tender but firm. "And I will win your heart, even if you run 1,000 times." He leaned in, brushing his lips near her ear. "I don't want your family's deal. I want you, only you." For the first time since the engagement began, Meret felt her heart soften. Not trapped, not owned, but wanted deeply, fiercely, truly. And when Eun-woo gently pulled her into his arms before everyone, she realized the love she tried to escape might be the love she had been waiting for all along. After the scandalous rehearsal kiss, Eun-woo didn't take Meret back to the dinner hall. He didn't call security. He didn't ask for explanations. He simply placed his hand on the small of her back and guided her toward his waiting limousine. When the door closed behind them, silence filled the spacious interior. Meret sat stiffly, fingers trembling in her lap. Eun-woo turned toward her slowly, dangerously, his voice low enough to melt air. "Look at me, Meret." She lifted her eyes, and immediately felt her heartbeat scatter. His gaze was intense, heated, hungry in a way she had never seen from any man, let alone the man she was supposed to marry. "You thought kissing another man would push me away," he murmured. "It only made me realize how much I can't bear the thought of losing you." Mirette swallowed, her lips dry. "But I didn't want this marriage. Not like this." "That," he whispered, leaning closer, "is because no one ever let you choose." His hand slowly slid over hers, warm and gentle. "Choose now," he said softly. "Not for a contract. Not for business. Choose whether you want to know the real me." Mirette's breath trembled. I don't know. That's all right." He brought her hand to his lips, kissing it with devastating tenderness. "Then I'll show you myself. Until you do." He took her to his private rooftop garden, a hidden heaven above the glowing city. Cherry blossoms swayed, lanterns flickered, the sky stretched wide with stars. Mirette stood there in awe. "You brought me here?" she whispered. "This is the place I've never shown anyone." His voice softened. "And yet the first time I saw you, I knew I would bring you here." Mirette slowly turned to him. "Why me?" Unwoo took a step closer. "Because you're the first woman who ever looked at me. Not at my money, my empire, or my name." His fingers brushed her cheek, featherlight. "You looked at me with fear, with honesty, with truth. And that is the first real thing I've felt in a long time." Her chest tightened. "I scare you, don't I?" he asked quietly. "Yes," she whispered. "You're powerful, intense." He smiled slightly, leaning in until his forehead touched hers. "And yet, you still tremble when I'm near you." She exhaled shakily. "I don't know what's happening to me." "You're falling," he whispered against her lips. "And so am I." His hand moved to her waist, careful, tender, protective. Mirette had never been held by a man. No kisses, no touches, no stolen moments. But Unwoo held her like she was something precious, something sacred. "Mirette," he murmured, "tell me to stop, if this frightens you." She looked up, her eyelashes trembling. "I don't want you to stop." The words escaped her before she could think. In an instant, Unwoo's breath caught, his restraint cracking. He cupped her face gently, as if it were the most fragile thing in the world. "Then let me show you how a man loves a woman he's been waiting his whole life for," he whispered, and he kissed her, soft at first, barely there, just brushing heat. Mirette's lips parted in surprise, a soft sound escaping her. Unwoo deepened the kiss slowly, reverently, giving her time to feel, to breathe, to melt. His hand ran up her back, her fingers gripped his jacket, and her knees weakened until he held her tighter, anchoring her to him. When he finally pulled away, his forehead rested against hers, chest rising fast. "I've kissed many women," he whispered breathlessly. "But that was the first time it ever meant something." Mirette felt a warmth bloom inside her. Frightening, beautiful, overwhelming. "Unwoo," she whispered, unable to hide the softness in her voice. He smiled, a rare, breathtaking smile only she had ever seen. "You don't need to run anymore," he murmured. "Not when I'm already running to you." After their first kiss on the rooftop, Unwoo barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he remembered Mirette's trembling lips, her soft gasp, the way she clung to his jacket as if he was the only thing holding her up. It was the first time in years, maybe ever, that something broke through his perfection, his control. And he liked it. No, he was hungry for it. At sunrise, he sent a message to her suite. "Are you awake? I want to see you." Mirette read it with her heart pounding. She touched her lips, remembering the heat of last night, and felt a blush spread through her cheeks. She replied with trembling fingers, "Yes, you can come." When Unwoo arrived, he didn't bring bodyguards, assistants, or a driver. He brought himself, and a tray of Ethiopian breakfast he had ordered from a small, hidden African cafe in Seoul. Mirette stared in shock. You got this for me?" He nodded. "You said you missed home." She had never felt so seen. As they ate together at the small balcony overlooking the city, Unwoo watched her with a softness that melted her. "Do I make you nervous?" he asked suddenly. She nearly choked on her injera. "Yes." He leaned closer, brushing a crumb from her lip with his thumb. "Good," he whispered, "because every time you look at me, I forget how to breathe." Her face burned. "And when you kissed me back last night," his voice deepened, "I haven't recovered." Mirette lowered her eyes, shy, her heart fluttering wildly. Later that day, Unwoo took her to a private botanical garden he normally visited alone. When they walked in, the guide from earlier, Jisoo, was there organizing flowers. Mirette smiled shyly at him. "Hello, Jisoo." But Unwoo's jaw tightened instantly. He stepped closer to Mirette, placing his hand on the small of her back in a possessive, unmistakable gesture. "Let's go," he said quietly, eyes locked on Jisoo with a warning sharp enough to slice air. Mirette bit her lip. "You're jealous," she whispered after they left. Unwoo paused, turning to her slowly. "I'm a man," he said softly, "and you're the woman who kissed someone else in front of me." Her breath caught. "So yes," he whispered, brushing her cheek. "I'm jealous, painfully jealous." He lowered his voice, letting it caress her ear. "But it only makes me want to love you harder." For days they spent more time together. Not with bodyguards, not with reporters, just them. He taught her Korean phrases. She taught him Amharic greetings. He showed her soul's hidden gardens. She showed him how to make Ethiopian coffee. Mirette laughed around him more than she ever had. And Unwoo became someone she never imagined. Gentle, protective, curious, warm. He listened to her stories like they were priceless jewels. He held her hand like he was afraid she'd slip away. He looked at her like she was a miracle he didn't deserve. One evening, as they walked beside the Han River, Mirette whispered, "I think I'm starting to fall for you." Unwoo stopped walking. He turned to her, eyes full of emotion he could no longer hide. "Mirette," he said softly, "I fell the moment you tried to escape me." He lifted her chin with one finger, his voice trembling slightly. "And every day since, I've been falling deeper." She felt her heart swell, warm and full. Then, with the river glowing beside them, Unwoo gently pulled her into his arms and kissed her. Slow, deep, tender, like a man claiming the woman meant for him. A kiss so full of emotion Mirette had to hold onto him to keep from melting. The night air was cool when Unwoo walked Mirette back to his penthouse after their kiss by the Han River. He didn't rush. He didn't pull. He simply held her hand, their fingers intertwined as if they were made to fit. When they reached the quiet warmth of his living room, moonlight spilling across the floor, Mirette felt something shift between them. He turned to her slowly, not as a billionaire, not as a fiancé arranged by families, but as a man deeply, powerfully in love. "Mirette," he whispered, "tell me, do you trust me now?" Her heart thudded. She searched his eyes, the gentleness, the warmth, the patience he carried only for her. "Yes," she breathed, "more than I trust myself." Something fragile and beautiful flickered in his eyes. He lifted a hand to her cheek, brushing her skin with the back of his fingers. His touch was soft, reverent, almost trembling. "You have no idea," he murmured, "what you're doing to my heart." He leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to step away. She didn't. She moved closer, so close that her breath mingled with his, so close she could feel the delicate tremor in his chest. Unwoo cupped her face fully, lowering his forehead to hers. "I don't want to overwhelm you," he whispered. "I just want to be close to you." Mirette felt her entire soul soften. "I want that too," she said, voice barely a breath. That was all he needed. His lips met hers, slow, deep, lingering. A kiss that wasn't rushed with hunger, but heavy with emotion. He kissed her like he was learning her, memorizing her, thanking her. Her hands slid up to his chest, feeling his heartbeat racing beneath her palms. He held her waist gently, guiding her closer with a tenderness that made her whole body warm. When he finally pulled back, their breaths mingled, shallow and trembling. "Come with me," he whispered, not a command, a plea, a hope. She nodded. Unwoo led her to his room, lit only by soft golden lamps that glowed like candlelight. There was no tension, no pressure, only stillness and the quiet electricity between two souls drawing near. He stood before her, brushing a stray curl from her face. "If anything feels too fast," he murmured, "say my name and I'll stop." Her heart melted. "Unwoo," she whispered, touching his jaw gently. "I'm not afraid anymore." His breath hitched, her courage undoing him completely. He pulled her into a slow, full embrace. Not fierce, not claiming, but protective. He held her like she was something holy. "Mirette." His voice broke slightly. "I've never wanted someone the way I want you." Their foreheads touched again. Their breaths synced. Then, with soft movements, gentle hands, and whispered words, they let their hearts take over. The night unfolded in warmth and closeness. Lips discovering, hands memorizing, bodies wrapped around each other in trust and affection. Nothing rushed, nothing forceful, just two souls learning each other's warmth. Slowly, deeply, beautifully. And when it was over, Unwoo held her against his chest. Their breaths tangled, her head resting near his heartbeat. He kissed her hair softly. "You're my first," he whispered. She looked up, confused. "First what?" "The first woman I've ever loved," he said, voice trembling with honesty. "And the only one I'll ever want." She touched his cheek, her eyes shining. "And you're the first man my heart chose," she whispered back. He closed his eyes, pulling her even closer. They slept in each other's arms, warm, safe, deeply connected. Not two strangers bound by an arrangement, but two hearts finally in love. After their first night together, something in Unwoo changed. His coldness melted. His confidence softened. His entire world recentered around Mirette. She didn't notice how he kept watching her with quiet admiration, how he always reached for her hand subconsciously, how he smiled to himself whenever she laughed. But the decision in his heart grew stronger each day. He didn't want to keep her because of a deal. He wanted to keep her because he loved her, deeply, fiercely, irrevocably. One evening, as they returned from a quiet walk through a snowfall-covered garden, Unwoo stopped abruptly, his breath rising softly in the cold air. "Mirette," he said, voice trembling slightly, "I have something to ask you." She turned, snowflakes settling in her dark curls. "What is it?" He stared at her as if his whole future was standing before him. He led her hand in hand to the rooftop garden where they shared their first kiss. The cherry blossoms, preserved in winter lantern light, glowed gently. The city sparkled below them, and the night air carried a quiet magic. Mirette shivered from the cold, but Unwoo wrapped his coat around her shoulders. "You always do that," she whispered, touched. "Do what?" "Make me feel safe." Her words softened something inside him. He brushed a thumb across her cheek, his breath warm against her skin. "Mirette," he murmured, "I want to be the man who keeps you warm for the rest of your life." Her heart fluttered. Before she could reply, he gently lowered himself to one knee. "Mirette Tesfaye." Her breath caught. Her hands flew to her mouth. Tears stung her eyes instantly. Unwoo swallowed hard, unable to hide his emotions. "You came into my life as someone I was supposed to marry because of an agreement." His voice softened. "But you became the woman I want to marry because of love." Mirette's tears slipped down her cheeks. "You taught me warmth I didn't know I needed. You taught me gentleness I didn't know I could give. You taught me what it means to belong to someone." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small velvet box. "But more than anything," his voice broke, just slightly, "you taught me that my heart was empty until you filled it." Mirette covered her trembling lips. "Unwoo," she whispered. He opened the box. Inside was a simple, elegant ring, a diamond set in a delicate gold band shaped like two petals leaning toward each other. A ring that looks like us, he said softly. Two souls growing toward each other. He looked up at her, eyes shining. Mirette, my heart, my sunrise, my future. Will you marry me? Mirette's knees weakened. Snow fell softly around them like tiny blessings. She dropped to her knees too, facing him, tears streaming freely. Yes, she whispered. Her voice cracked. Yes, Unwoo. 1,000 times yes. He let out a breath that sounded like relief, joy, and love all in one. With shaking hands, he slid the ring onto her finger. Mirette threw her arms around him, burying her face in his chest. Unwoo wrapped her tightly in his embrace, lifting her slightly off the ground. You're mine, he whispered into her hair. My love, my woman, my miracle. And you're mine, she said through soft sobs. My heart chose you. They stayed locked in each other's arms as the rooftop glowed under lanterns and snow. The city below unaware that two souls had just promised their forever. Then Unwoo kissed her. Not like the first time, not like the second, but like a man sealing a vow with his heart. A kiss full of devotion. A kiss that made her knees melt. A kiss that carried a lifetime. Their engagement was not the one planned by families. It was the one written by love. The day of the wedding arrived gently, like a blessing from heaven. The sun rose soft and golden over Seoul, and the entire city felt lighter, almost as if it knew a love story was being written in its heart. But the most beautiful part? This wedding was no longer something forced or